I remember, I'll never forget it. Season 8. I remember there's this one guy. He had drove overnight from Kentucky to be in the bar, and he was hanging out, and he was faced on Jack Daniels, and he's holding his glass up, and then he's like toasting them, and then the show ends, and then he takes his slug, and he goes like, "That was trash, man."
3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Reactorverse podcast brought to you by Passionfruit. I'm here today with, in my opinion, one of the most important players in the reaction community and the genre. He is the titular Sean of Sean TankTop.
What's going on? The important players. Oh my God, so much pressure. I mean, not to say that like I will rise to the occasion, my friend Eric. That was all too kind. And I'm glad to be here on the Reactorverse, man.
Of course, man. Yeah, I don't think it's an overstatement of how important your work is in the space because of those early Game of Thrones reactions that, you know, we're seeing in the Burlington bar.
Right.
Very important stuff. Really, Game of Thrones and the evolution of reactions is kind of like one of the first catalysts that really ignited the interest people had with making reaction videos. And the Burlington bar videos that you had became sort of visually synonymous with what people thought of those type of, you know, interactions with the show.
Right.
And so I think it was such an important part of like how the show evolved with like the fan interaction, but also just the reaction space in general. Yeah. So like it really is like seminal, to say the least.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, you're all too kind. It's funny. It is funny how you have to kind of, I don't know, like to reconcile like how the conversation that's sort of going on, like via like the fandom of a certain thing, and then with that said thing, you know, I mean, like I think it is funny, like it's now that we're sort of, you know, kind of a little bit removed from Thrones and that being such a seminal, like kind of touchstone for a lot of reaction channels and stuff, you know, like. Yeah. You know, like us, like Normies, Blind Wave, you know, like your boy Roshi, like everybody has kind of like gone through that gauntlet and done it and stuff. And like and yeah, and just so, you know, kind of being, and it's funny now that we got to the point like where people like I'll still get comments like every week, you know what I mean? Like, about like, it's like, oh, it was these guys who ruined the show. It was the reaction like kind of business that ruined the show. And, you know, I mean, I wouldn't say so. I would like to think that Dan and David and any creator are, you know, aware of stuff, you know, but I think it's the same reason. It's the same way that I think that any creator is kind of aware of stuff. I think I'm very aware at how people think that our reactions now that me and the Draces or myself and like Scott or Alex with Manly Movie Mondays or myself and Emil that we talk too much, like through our reactions, which is a common thing. And I was like, you know, maybe in a similar space where I'm just like, okay, cool, noted. I think we're going to keep doing our damn thing. You know what I mean? So exactly. I think that it's funny when I kind of see some stuff like that. It's like, if I can't be moved to shut up to watch an anime, you think that these guys are going to be moved to do like one of the, you know, like their vision of what, you know, whether or not anybody likes that vision or not, whether or not we're satisfied with that vision or not, if, you know, that they're going to be that they're going to change their, like what they're doing. I doubt it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, but exactly. It's funny that, like I kind of there's a synchronicity with Thrones, specifically the types of emotions that it kind of would elicit from people, and then people kind of wanting to kind of like commiserate, re-experience, reaffirm like kind of their experience with other people on the internet and stuff. Right. And so yeah, I think in that way it's almost like we're the, I don't know, we're like the banners for how people feel about certain things, and so, in some ways, you know. Yeah,
I mean, there's always a vicarious nature to reactions. I think that's such a big point of like why people enjoy it. And for the Burlington bar stuff, like I want to go back to the whole beginning of how that got started, which is I guess, your personal history with it. What is your sort of backstory with the bar? Like how you got started there?
Sure. I mean, like, it is funny, like how, I mean, here's a soundbite for you. I think that I am probably the Forrest Gump of reaction videos on YouTube. As far as like, there's a bunch of things that sort of I was doing, what didn't really have YouTube as a career or something like that I wanted to kind of like succeed in, like on my mind at the time. And that kind of was something that it sort of, I guess, what would you say, like, revealed itself as an opportunity a little bit later and stuff like that. But we'll take it back to the beginning. It kind of started back because I was a bartender on Sunday nights, and we try to get at the Burlington. It's an awesome little kind of like classic Chicago, like hole in the wall, like kind of dive that has rock shows and stuff like that in the back room. And sometimes, Sundays aren't exactly the easiest days to book as far as getting that stuff in. So we're always trying to figure out ways to get people into the bar. And it was more of so I remember it was the Red Wedding of season 3,
right?
Because what we would do is we would get done with our shift, and my buddy Matt Kimmel, shout out to Matt, where we basically had done a couple of different things. We had done like Breaking Bad final season, where we just had people in there, and I'm like, why didn't I have a camera on? Like to do the Breaking Bad finale, you know what I mean? That would have been amazing. But we would watch it after we closed up and stuff like that, and we're just relaxing. And if you've ever worked like a service industry job, and you're kind of like you're like a smoker and a drinker, like I really was then. I've quit smoking since then. But we would have ourselves a cigarette lit, a beer and a shot, and we would watch Game of Thrones in the bar after we would close up. And then after a certain point, I can't remember who it was that one of us said, he goes like, wait a minute, shouldn't we can turn this on while the show is running and invite people over. We could do that, right? And I was like, yeah, I think we could, and then that was sort of kind of became a thing. I think we had done Breaking Bad before then. And that was, and that did incredibly well. And so we're like, okay, cool. We got to try Thrones and stuff. And then that was sort of when we started. Some people say that we did Red Wedding reactions. We've never done a Red Wedding reaction. Believe me, I would have loved to have done a Red Wedding reaction. Yeah. Try saying that 3 times fast. And so that kind of, for season 4, we started to do it. And originally I had just thought of the YouTube thing as a way to promote the night, to get people into the bar. I was not thinking, like YouTube views. Like YouTube was just a cheap and easy way to put these videos up and stuff like that. I kind of didn't quite, I don't know. I guess I just wasn't thinking about it insofar as a business that much then. Like, I don't know, like I listened to your pod with Siraj, like from the Normies and stuff like that, and love that guy. That guy's tremendous and stuff. And like, I don't know, like I remember he was so lovely when he kind of like said that he had been kind of inspired by some of our stuff, which I mean, I'm also Siraj. I'm open to taking residuals, by the way. Like if you want to do like if you need any points on the back end or something like that. No. I mean, like those guys are so creative and such a great crew and stuff like that we would have any part in kind of inspiring that. Like that was going to happen regardless. I feel just because those guys are so special and just so creative and such a great vibe for a channel and everything. But so we started to open it up, and I would basically shoot it only like kind of like the big moments. Like they weren't full coverage. Like if you go back and you see some of like our earliest stuff, like I only shot like and posted like the purple wedding. Right. Yeah.
The moment, the actual.
Yeah. Like events, the marquee moment, just as a way to kind of get people in. And then, we're kind of doing it. And at that point I was a book reader, and I sort of knew a couple of the things that were going to happen, namely the Viper in the Mountain, which I think is kind of it's just such a roller coaster of emotions. You know what I mean? Like where you have like a big win, everybody's cheering, and then you have kind of the shock and the horror of it. And then you have like a legitimate gross out moment where a guy gets his eyeballs gouged out and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of knew that was all coming down the pike, and I was just like, oh, this will be cool. Like, I think this will be really interesting, and I think it's going to get a big reaction and stuff. And then I remember we posted it onto the YouTube, and at that point we had started to get like a little, I think I remember sometime, I think we had hit like, I think while we were doing like one of our opening, because I'll usually kind of go out to the crowd and I'll be like, hey, like, just so you guys know, we want to keep it nice and respectful. You know, if a dragon bites somebody's head off or something crazy happens, of course you guys are going to have a reaction, but you know, like, don't kind of refrain from talking or kind of yelling at the screen or anything like that. Like, you know, like while there's like dialogue or something like
the kind of general etiquette.
Yeah, just like a general thing, you know, and just it very similar to like I likened it to like a midnight movie for like a Marvel movie or something like that, or something. And so, and then I remember we shot that, and I remember it was like, oh my God, this is pretty cool. And then, cause that's the thing, is that I would also work the whole shift too. So I would close the bar at 2:33, jump on my Mac and start editing. And, you know, and back when that was only, you know, that was essentially, you know, it was essentially just like anywhere from like a 2 to 5 minute clip or something like that. It wasn't, it wasn't as much work. So I'd get done, post it, go to sleep.
Right.
And then I remember I did that. And then I think I did a link on Reddit or something, and then woke up and it was on the front page, and we had gotten ourselves, you know, 40 to 50,000 views or something like that since I had, you know, kind of knocked out and fallen asleep and everything. And then, you know, it just, the viral thing happened, you know, and it's just, it's one of those things that you kind of are never really get used to, you know, or at least I still haven't, just watching something kind of do well and build, and an audience kind of starts to come to it, and it becomes like this kind of like a feeding frenzy almost, like where people just want to check this thing out and stuff. And then after that, I mean, it was, and you know, then, you know, we kind of became, then the bar kind of got known for it. The bar was packed for the last 2 episodes of the show. And then it was sort of, I don't know. I just like, I remember at that point I was also directing a feature film at that point. And so I was like very much like, I had like these 2 big creative things kind of happening and stuff. And so I remember I was kind of finishing that. And so even then, even after that little big splash in the pan, it was YouTube was kind of secondary, you know, and so, you know, season 5 rolled around. I remember I was very, we kept hearing about bars getting shut down, like that if you were showing it, you would get, the night would get clipped. And I remember that's why
I do recall that. Yeah.
I mean, like, and I think that kind of, it was one of those things where we got a little paranoid. I remember we were doing the night, but we weren't like filming all of them, because even though looking back, you know, I should have been filming all of them, maybe just not releasing them, because I felt like if I wanted to protect the night. Like if we're going to keep doing content and keep doing videos, and then we get the whole night gets a cease and desist, and I had to kill this little community event, I would have hated that. So I was kind of protecting it a little bit at that point.
Totally. Yeah.
And that's why we missed the hard home sequence, like the big zombie attack sequence, which was just like, I remember it's like watching that happen and just sitting there. Like, I remember I tried to take some video with my crappy iPhone 6 or whatever it was, and it just wasn't working, you know? And so, and so I don't know, it was just, and then after a minute, and then coming up on season like 6 and 7, you know, we had our regulars. We had a kind of our stable of regulars that people like, they would always come early. They would always, you know, people say that, you know, we reserved seats and stuff like that. And up until season 8, we never did anything like that. You know, it was just, they were just fans, and they just got there earlier than everybody else did and stuff. And so people started to kind of clue in on the personalities and the different people that were up front and stuff. And then that's kind of where we got like our cast of characters, and we were all just friends and stuff. And then, so that's kind of where the next sort of thing kind of came out of it. But that was the impetus of it, was just getting drunk after hours and being like, I don't know, we could just do this while the bar's open, right? Yeah, sure, absolutely. You know what I mean? It's kind of that type of a vibe, you know?
Right. Did you have a sort of technical hump in terms of getting like the right angles, like the lighting, stuff like that at first, trying to get everyone sort of situated so like you can get like the best product out of like the presentation?
That definitely came a little bit later. I remember I was using like at that point because I was doing a lot of like wedding photography and videography and stuff like that. So I had some of those cameras at my employ. I had some fast lenses that were down to like 1.8 or something like that we could kind of make it work and stuff. But it was still like very, like I had to push that ISO. I had to push that grain super hard. You can tell like it's some of those early ones and stuff.
Right.
And kind of just the whole, it happened. It was definitely like a trial and error type of thing where I think a lot of creators kind of find themselves in. Like you go back and you just cringe so hard at some of those early videos and stuff. You're like, I could have been doing this. I could have been doing that, or whatever. And so I think that, I remember just knowing that like we like not and also not having monetized anything.
Right.
Because that was another thing because I was like because it was like I think the whole idea with bars getting shut down is that they were charging cover.
Like
they would literally charge like $5-10 or something like that to come in, and you can't do that. Like it's one of those things where if you go about it like the completely straight down the line way, like the best thing is to pay like for a license for it or something. But even then, like I don't think that it's not to directly profit off of it. It's the same thing where I guess in bars technically you're not supposed to show like certain like ball games and like certain sports events and stuff like that. But it's kind of like I call it the brown paper bag like thing where it goes like, we put on the TV and people come over. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like or whatever. And so I think that like our output and as far as like what we were doing, I was just trying to I didn't want to get in anybody's way because I think that also the other thing, trying to keep things as dark as possible means that they won't be aware of what I'm doing with the camera.
True. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it can kind of, you put a camera around. One thing I've learned in live event videography and doing weddings and anything like this and doing reaction videos is that the camera does change people.
Totally.
It changes people. I mean, like there's very few things that can do that in that way. You know what I mean? And so I think that, and so my whole thing was kind of started to try to invest in cameras and lenses and stuff like that would allow us to maintain the aesthetic of the night for the most part, right, and keep and so the immersion of the audience wouldn't be kind of, I guess, interrupted or anything like that, and that was because it's all, I mean, that's the other thing that is kind of weird about our stuff and so unique about it is that it is just an open, like, public forum. Like anyone can come in there. If some guy's going to come in there and he's wearing only a trench coat and he flashes everybody in the thing, like we're going to capture that moment in the bar. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't, it's kind of weird, like how most of the time you're trying to control elements of your shoot to assure quality, and like how we've kind of had to do that, but within the mindset of like a public event. Right. Did you happen to meet, because you mentioned like regulars who came in and like there were people who you kind of knew already. Did you happen to meet new people through that event? I mean, like that was where, I mean, probably the other two faces that I think people will probably will think of most when they think of the channel are the Draces, or Dustin and Morgan, as the internet affectionately, I'm pretty sure, coined them green-haired girl and hipster Shaggy. I think were the nicknames that they kind of landed on, and everybody kind of got one of those, like, and so I had met them through season 4, and I had also met my current partner, who I'm still together with, Amelia. Who is it? She was the blue handkerchief, I think people started to call her, because she would tie a handkerchief in her hair and stuff. Right. And I asked her out on the what was it? The finale of season 4. I got the Stones up to do it, and then we've kind of been together, and sort of it's been a part of our lives, like ever since. And it was kind of through that I met the Draces, and through that I met a couple of the other people, and then there were some people that I was friends with well before, like Scott, my buddy Scott Kane, who everybody dubbed Captain America. Like everybody kind of clued on him because he's broad-shouldered, blonde haired, but with a beard and stuff like that, and then there's also like Kyle Hagrid, Alex, who it's like he is the perfect, if Hagrid was a Kyle, like this is the guy, you know what I mean? Right. And so, and it was just funny, like how, they sort of, I don't know, like Steve, is Tormund Jr. because he bears a very strong resemblance to Tormund, just looks like his little brother and everything. And so It was just funny, like how they kind of picked people out, and we were all homies, obviously, but I think it also, that shared experience of them selecting us kind of brought us closer together in a certain sense, or it was kind of a little, I don't know, like a little bit of like kind of destiny kind of weaving us together and stuff, you know what I mean? But we just all, we all got along, and it was all it was just very good friends doing what I think we would normally be doing. Right. You know what I mean?
Totally. Without the camera.
Yeah.
In those first couple of years, like from season 4 to 5, then 5 to 6, when the show would go on hiatus, you would just kind of go on hiatus with the channel. Like you wouldn't fill the gaps with anything. Later you would fill things in with like other content. But this first couple of years, you kind of left it blank. Was there any sort of idea early on, like I should do something here with this, or was it easy to kind of just let it sit and wait for the show to come back?
I mean, look, I think it was just my ignorance to the apparatus of YouTube. You know what I mean? Like I kind of knew it as just like a delivery device. I hadn't really considered it as like a viable creative output, obviously viable within, I guess maybe not just like the forum to kind of nestle my creativity at the time, like I guess I just didn't, I thought of them as very separate things. And I just thought of it as like a cool little seasonal thing that we kind of do and stuff. And, like when it rolls around, we're all in, and, when it's not, we're kind of doing our normal and living our lives and everything. And so it wasn't until season 6, and I kind of looked over and I was like, holy shit, I have like 50,000 followers, 50,000 subs. And that's the other thing that I kind of feel a little bit bad, because I know like there's so many like creators out there grinding hard, like fighting tooth and nail for every sub, and how I kind of feel like I sort of like I didn't sleep my way to the top, but like it was like, but I started out with like a very unique product. You know what I mean? Like even to this day, there's very few things that replicate like what we do with like the bar and stuff. And like, and that's what makes it's what makes it captivating. It's what makes it special. And
it was lightning in a bottle. Like really, it was hyper niche, hyper focused with like the format of it, but also the fact that you're posting very limited clips, so everyone kind of got like quantity within like a bite size, sort of chunk. And like you said, season 6 is kind of when things started to formulate with their recognition of the channel. At that time in the bar, did people know the bar as a sort of no quantity in the Chicago community of like this is where they do the Game of Thrones big reactions?
Time. Yeah. And once we kind of had our little once we had the viral moment, I mean the night grew along with the audience, with the YouTube audience and stuff like that. Because that next thing you knew, like at the like you kind of like it's a manageable crowd by on episode 8 season 4 and stuff like that, and even the finale of season 4, it's like holy shit, we are packed to the gills. Like, is this a fire hazard? I think it might be, but whatever, we're gonna go with it. It's gonna be fine and stuff. And so, and we got people from all over. We had a bunch of students and stuff like all over the world. Like we had Australians, we had Germans, we had Swedes, we had like all these people just kind of descending upon the place because they saw it on YouTube. And like and even with like our we're still doing stuff with like House of the Dragon now, and we still have to basically do very little promotion for it because people just kind of assume that we're showing it, and they come out in droves. And definitely like the finale. It's always the premiere and the finale are your biggest nights for the most part. You know what I mean? With like a little bit of an uptick happening, kind of on like, episodes like 8, 9 and stuff. And of course, like the owner of the bar, he's like, you realize like I've just noticed like a Game of Thrones bar now, right? And I'm just like, yeah, sure. It's like, but what did they know about it before?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and so I mean, even though credit goes out to the owner and stuff to Chris, I mean, he's always given me like an immense amount of freedom to do with his space, kind of like what we've been able to do and even up into this day. And so, yeah, I mean, all credit goes to a lot of credit goes to the owner just for allowing us to do this weird little thing. You know what I mean?
Totally. And, like you mentioned earlier, elsewhere in the world at that time, other bars were getting cease and desists for showing viewing parties at their locations for the show because it's a paid subscription type model for HBO.
Right.
But at that time, going into 2017, you actually got a thank you package from Benioff and Weiss saying thank you for watching the show, and like they give you a signed poster and everything. I guess, what was that like at that time, getting into the season 7, I believe it was, and getting the sort of recognition from them?
Insane. You know what I mean? It'd be like if you were on the eve of like working on Return of the Jedi, like George Lucas would just send you a package and stuff like that. And again, like everybody gives D&D a hard time, and for reasons that I think are completely valid and totally fine or whatever it is. I mean, that's just a commerce of art. You know what I mean? You put it out and people judge it.
Yeah.
But it was it's like I'm getting, oh man, like, like we're getting ready for Return of the Jedi to come out, and you get a little thing that says, "Hey, thanks a lot, guys. This is George Lucas. We really appreciate the video." You know what I mean? Like it was crazy. It was like they see us, they know us, and stuff like that. It was very cool. And actually, this is something that only people that kind of showed up were there after the Viper and the Mountain hit in a big way. We had gotten a special video from Lena Headey. She's just in bed, and she's like, "Hello, Burlington Bar. How's it doing?" And she's doing her teeth acting and stuff like that. And it was crazy. It was just to know that, and it was also crazy because I guess some of her, I guess like in daycare, some of her kids knew the owner of the bar's like best friend.
Oh, wow.
And that's how they linked up. It was just very small world type of stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
She was like, "Have you ever heard of the Burlington Bar?" It's like, Burlington Bar, my buddy owns it. You know what I mean? Like all the way over in LA, which is crazy. But she sent us a little note and stuff. And, we've had several, it seems like every time, if it ever does come up or something like that, we've had like people send us the clips of them kind of like talking about, like certain stars or certain whatever, kind of talking about it and stuff. And it's crazy. It's weird. I mean, like it's totally, it's cool to know that, to have any type of recognition, let alone like, like something kind of like, affectionate is to come from these people that create this like thing that you like really love, you know what I mean? And so it's wild, and it's very special for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so 2017 is when you get into season 7, but you also start expanding into different creative outlets for the channel. You started like Watchers in the Bar, which I think was like precursor to like what you would do later with like the sort of isolated reactions for like other type of shows.
Yeah.
Was there any sort of strategy you had like now at that point trying to like stretch your wings out to different avenues?
I think it was one of those things where it was, by that time we had all been kind of hanging out together and kind of interacting with this audience that we were kind of building, and then sort of understanding, and then just realizing like just how like our chemistry and our willingness to like make content and stuff like that, because it's a big ask, you know what I mean? Because at that point we weren't making any money and stuff like that. People were just kind of doing it for free, and to be like, hey, like, do you want to be a part of this like different thing? Like we've kind of just been able to like hang out and do our oohs and our ahs and stuff like that. I want to hear about what you think about this. I want to hear about what you have to think about, because as I've kind of found out, the audience will just tell you what they want to see.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you got to listen. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that was sort of, I had thought of us kind of considered a big inspiration for us early on was the Red Letter Media stuff. Those guys that work out of, and they do primarily like reviews and kind of different reactions to very kind of niche things. But like they were reviewing kind of like the big kind of tentpole stuff of the day. They don't really do TV. They do mostly films and stuff. But again, like it's sort of similar in a sense where they started out as like these essay kind of these things about the Plinkett and the prequels and all that kind of stuff, you know, like whatever, that were immensely popular, but then they had to kind of rebrand themselves as like a personality based review show. And that was sort of how I thought of it early on, because in all candor, and I say this with the utmost humility, I fucking hated reaction channels. Or at least I didn't, I think I didn't appreciate, like I think a lot of people do, like that type of content. You know what I mean? Like, and that was just me being my hoity-toity bullshit film school, snooty way about it. You know what I mean? Like, and to not know that, that there is a lot of creative authorship that goes into creating this type of content and creating this type of stuff, And so I think that that was the first impetus. And that's where we kind of got into the rewatchers in the bar, where we would kind of rewatch the episode, make kind of I don't know if I meant for it to kind of be so comedy forward off the bat. That is Morgan Drace's fault. Morgan and Amelia and Sam, who was with us at the time, they were so funny and irreverent. So they just set the tone for where we would kind of take some of our content. Because even now that we kind of just do straight reaction stuff, it's very much like a comedy forward type of show that we have.
Totally.
And like edited bits and different types of things and like all the things, like people, it's one thing that I really strive for all of our editors to kind of like spread their wings and be really creative with that type of stuff and to not hold back in them also building a relationship with our audience too. Like there's we were just doing Vox Machina, and one of our editors, Kenny, has just like, he's the most popular goddamn reactor on that series, and he's not on camera. You know what I mean? Because people just love all the little notes and stuff like that he puts in there. But that was where we started. I think that was my original impetus, was like, I have such an interesting cast of characters within my friend group and who are down to film stuff, it was just sort of like, let's see if we can kind of make this work, because they were I marvel at everybody's, like, at how good they were as personalities too, like on camera. Like, it's just, I don't know. It's just, you stick a camera and a microphone in somebody's face, like they change, like they can retract and they can, they can kind of recuse themselves like a little bit emotionally. And that was not our experience, you know what I mean? Right. And that's what was very special about it, is that they were that willing and they were that trusting, and then they were that and that they were that fucking funny. I mean, just really funny, really smart, and so I don't know, that was where we got the idea that the personality could kind of also sort of kind of ride shotgun to the big crowd reactions and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then, so you were able to sort of balance the channel with those early outlets for the content with the bar stuff. And then going into summer 2019, that's the final season of Game of Thrones.
The nerdpocalypse, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't think it's inaccurate to say that the last season is divisive, to say the least. Like,
for sure. Oh yeah.
But the show was still a juggernaut at that point, and everyone, I think, was really still excited to see it and to be a part of that last season. Oh yeah. At the bar, did you feel any sort of communal shift in the experience as like the show was developing towards the conclusion week to week?
As far as like what people were like feeling, as far as like them not being satisfied with the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think because like in retrospect, you can kind of see the cracks starting to really form around like season 7 and stuff, even though season 7 still had like banger as hell, like episodes that kind of that sort of buoyed themselves through the experience. Like kind of one of the biggest ones that we had was like kind of like they call it, I mean, I think they call it like the loot train thing. I like to call it the Battle of the Rose Road. I think is like a little bit more of a poetic and nice way to say it. But that was like our big hit one for that season, as it should be. It was a gigantic dragon ripping shit up. It was amazing. You know what I mean? Like, and just seeing it kind of done in that way, and just how much it freaked people out. And so we were still riding pretty damn high. I mean, there was a lot of goodwill coming into season 8, and it wasn't until, and again, looking back, everybody becomes like an armchair fucking Risk player where you're like, well, I would have done this with the army, and I would have done this with the thing. And again, I think that's totally fair, honestly. I mean, like, it's, like, there's a reason that people don't nitpick the shit out of like Helm's Deep. Right. You know what I mean? In the Two Towers, it's because it's incredibly staged and it's like logistically sound. I think that, but in that room, in that reaction, that build up to the battle at Winterfell, I've never seen the audience more gripped. I've never seen them more gripped. After the fact, when you're like, we just didn't know that the entire war was going to last a single night. You know what I mean? Like, we thought it was going to be kind of like at least 2 episodes or something. Yeah. And in the way that it did, again, a huge moment. What do they call that? I think what was it? Alfred Hitchcock, he coined the phrase like the milk moment, like where you get up in the middle of the night to go get a glass of milk, which I'm like, who the fuck does that? What are you, 5 years old? Alfred Hitchcock, get the hell out of here. Like, but he's like, you come up, you go to get a glass of water or something like that, like in the middle of the night, and then you just kind of sit there, and then you Cocker Spaniel sort of go, well, that doesn't really make any sense, does it? You know what I mean? Like, once you think about it, and I do think that there's within review culture and reaction culture and just online discourse, I think that we're able to clue in on those things faster in real time. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so watching people start to digest some of those creative decisions and how they were shocking, but you could tell that there was a certain satisfaction. And again, but also there was also like a little bit of, I don't know, there was just a ton of goodwill that we had towards the program. I mean, like at that point we were just like, well, like it's, I mean, I think it could have been a little weird, but I don't know, we're working up to it, and then I think, I remember, I'll never forget it. And I got to go back. I got to see if I could maybe find it again. Season 8. I remember there's this one guy, he was like, it was just a roller coaster of emotions. I really wish that I would have caught this on camera, or maybe I just need to go back and try to find it. It was the end of it. They'd found Ghost or whatever it is, and he finally got a hug. He had drove overnight from Kentucky to be in the bar, and he was hanging out, and he was shit faced on Jack Daniels, and he's holding his glass up, and then he's like toasting them, and then the show ends, and then he takes his slug, and he goes like, that was trash, man. Like, and we're just like, that was trash. And I think, and again, like, I think that maybe it was because we had some of that correspondence with some of those folks, and maybe there was an element of that we were just like, is this bad? Like, do we not like this? And I think that some people are a little maybe overly harsh on certain aspects of season 8. I don't think that, story-wise, there were that many things that are so egregious. I just think that they needed more time. That bun needed a little more time in the oven. Yeah, totally. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just to kind of to really make those ideas like really feel like organic and like they weren't super duper rushed and stuff. And so I mean, I think that it was interesting to watch because the crowd was always pretty satisfied and pretty into it because we're dealing with like super fans, you know what I mean? But I think that it was when we would do the rewatchers in the bar and we would have like that kind of commentary once we had digested it and once we were kind of whatever, then that's where some of the critique started to kind of come out and like started to really reveal itself and stuff. And so that was kind of more, it was less from the crowd because it was such an electric kind of experience for people and stuff. It's hard to not get caught up in that. It's like that's why everybody gets really upset by people. It's like, these people are just cheering for whatever the fuck comes on, whatever. And I'm just like, go to a ball game and get into a high stakes playoff game, even if you don't care, and tell me you're not going to get caught up by that.
Right.
Tell me that you're not going to become, because that's I think that's another different part about, or that's another element of our work that I think in our stuff that I think people kind of fail to realize, like these armchair headphone weirdos, like over there, like whatever, like the commenters, even though we love all the commenters, comment on this video and everything like that. Make sure you get that engagement up and stuff. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Yeah, totally. I mean, being part of that communal experience is such an important factor in your enjoyment of it. And you talked about like goodwill for the show.
Being
being there for so long. I just spoke with Nikki and Steven from Nikki and Steven Reacts, and Steven was like, even the worst episode of Game of Thrones is better than a lot of other TV that I've seen.
I think that's well said. I mean, like, I think he's right on the money with that. I mean, or you know what I likened it to? I remember I likened this when we went to Con of Thrones. It was like you went on an 8-day vacation, you lost your wallet on the 7th day. Or no. It rained on the 7th day, and you lost your wallet and passport on the 8th. Yeah. Does it ruin the whole vacation?
Yeah,
I don't think it does. I mean, maybe you could argue that it does. I mean, you got to end strong. You know what I mean? Like you have to. What's that? What the quote from Brian Cox's character in Adaptation? Wow, I'm in the end. Yeah, and you got to hit. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that there's something to that. You know what I mean? It's the last thing that people remember, but. What I can never not be grateful regardless, just because of the things that it's ushered into my life. You know what I mean? It's hard to, I mean, it is one of the single most impactful things that has ever happened to me professionally, personally, et cetera, so forth, and so I don't know. It's like, I mean, as much as I would love to possibly, if George ever puts his fucking books out, you know what I mean? Like like if we can we curse on this, by the way? I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
Definitely can. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Fucking A, right on. Like, all right. No, but if he ever, if we can ever pick it up and kind of see some of that stuff, would I love to see like a Game of Thrones, like Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood type of redux or something like that? Maybe I would, but I don't know. I just think that, I don't know. I'm and this is very exclusive to me, but I'm just too grateful for the journey. You know what I mean? As cheesy as that shit sounds, you know. Yeah. But that's pretty much that's how I process it and feel it.
Right. Yeah, the journey being such an important factor, and like the impact it had in your life, like for sure. And do you recall then feeling, what it was like when the show was officially over? Like the show had ended. Like it's
sure.
Like that's it. That's the last night of Game of Thrones watch here at the bar.
I mean, it was emotional, man. Like it was definitely like it was definitely a thing. I think by that point we had started to kind of do enough other shit that I knew that it was gonna change. Like I knew that things were not gonna be the same, and nothing has been since then. And I knew that there was going to be a regrouping of sorts and stuff. And that was totally fine. I mean, like, and also you get so burnt out by the end of those seasons and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like I call it like the episode 7 or 8, like sadness tour or whatever it is. Like once you get to be about like 3/4 of the way through, when we were doing as much stuff as we're doing and outputting as much stuff as we're outputting, like I'm kind of like, I'm fine with it ending, you know what I mean? Like I'm good, you know what I mean? Like or whatever. And so and we're like going forward, we'll see kind of what happens, and then that kind of because it's the two big things with us is Game of Thrones in the bar and COVID are like the two big kind of things that ushered in different like eras and kind of defined the channel and stuff like that.
Because you after Game of Thrones you did Mandalorian, and that carried you to the end of 2019. And that would just be, and
those are fine. You know what I mean? Like again, and that was it's a humbling experience because you're just like, oh, Mando, like we'll get people to show up, it'll be fucking sick, right? Like totally. It was okay. You know what I mean? As far as the turnout, I mean, like you only need about 10 people in that place to kind of get a reaction, video going, and that's totally fine. But I don't know. It just it was also kind of just spoke to the moment that Game of Thrones, and it's one of the last ones that really had like a true monoculture zeitgeist moment. We are waiting every week with beta. Now I don't know. Like I can just turn on The Mandalorian from home. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we had to, by the point that we were showing The Mandalorian, it had already kind of been out for like a day.
Yeah.
If people wanted to watch it, they could. I mean, who knows what if that option was out there, if Game of Thrones, if people would have showed up for the show.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
And so-
yeah. Also, I think the biggest change was Game of Thrones. I think was the last sort of like prime time, couch viewing experience where like
Exactly.
we got to the streaming shows, everything drops at midnight. Like who's going to go to a bar at midnight to go watch a TV show?
Hell no.
So
Yeah.
on. So like
I
that
might,
kind of
but that I
yeah. So we were kind of like getting back to that now with certain shows coming back on like at 6 p.m. for certain streaming things that they're trying to experiment
Yeah, which
with.
I think again, it's almost like the rollout model for mass media, like that's basically been kind of the same for the last like 70 years. There's a little bit of merit to that.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even though I love the binge model, it's great. Like it's awesome for when you're hungover and shit. Like it's just like just kind of let something wash over you. But I think there's something to that, to kind of building up anticipation and stuff, and kind of having. That's why you're starting to see like Netflix is sort of like they're releasing like half of a season.
Yeah, exactly.
Waiting like and because I think that that's also an element of that reaction channels play in that in how like I think Siraj brought it up in your guys' discussion, like where there's properties that people might not have realized was so kind of bankable, like a Last Airbender or something like that. You know what I mean? Because reaction channels just kind of kept it alive. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
and that type of a thing.
Yeah, and that's part of the next step for you, because again we go into 2019, go into the pandemic, early 2020, and everything obviously changes because you can't operate at the bar while that's going on, so that you have to pivot the same way like a lot of other people had to pivot, but for you more so. It's such a huge change.
Yeah.
I guess what was your personal experience like, having to step away from the bar because for safety reasons, and then having to refocus on like, okay, here's how we're gonna sort of put this stuff out now.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the thing is because like myself and the Draces and stuff, and we're like the most kind of like hardcore bar industry workers and stuff. I mean, at that point, I was managing the Burlington and stuff, and I people think that I'm an owner. I'm not an owner, believe me. I really wish that I could be an owner, but I'm not. But I mean, like, I was doing that. I was shooting weddings, and I had these bar reactions, and literally all of those things are completely are go away when you have a pandemic, when you have and so and again, credit to Dustin, because we're just like, what are we gonna do? And I remember again my hesitancy. I don't know why I was so hesitant to do just straight reactions to shit. I really don't. I really don't know. Looking back on it, I really don't understand why. I think it was partially pride, like where I just really wanted to make this kind of review format work, and I really wanted this type of thing to kind of it was my idea, it was my brainchild. It was like I just wanted it to kind of do it, and the fact that I think it was The Last Dance, that kind of big documentary Michael Jordan hit came out, and Dustin was just like, let's just straight up react to it. Like, let's just do it. And I was like, okay, like let's go for it. And we started to do it. Everybody was home. Everybody was watching a lot of TV. It was one of the biggest documentaries out there. We did that. And then, and then it got a good response, and it got it had a good response on our Patreon and stuff. And then we're like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, let's see what the patrons want to do. Like what the next show that we want to do, that we should check out is. And then they picked Avatar: The Last Airbender. And that show plus the pandemic completely and irrevocably changed the channel forever. And it kind of created the apparatus for what we do now. And also, it's just really funny. You go back and you watch those episodes. You watch us in real time experience the pandemic. Like we started, we're basically kind of in the furloughs of it. We have this amazing show with all of these lovely deep themes, and like we have Uncle Iroh, spitting his fucking wisdom and shit, like stuff that we needed to hear. You know what I mean? About like accepting love, accepting help from people that want to help us and stuff. And that was like a big part of all of our stuff. I mean, especially for me, because like, I was for not to go into it, but like, it was harder for me to get like, unemployment at that time and stuff like that. So I was just at home grinding these sons of bitches out and getting all these shows done and stuff. And so, and yeah, and it's just, it was just, and that community is also, it's just so kind of positive and I don't know, it's just, and the thing around it is just so positive and satisfying and enriching. Like we started, we're headlong into it. We're a couple of Zucos and shit. Like we feel like we got little prospects, you know, we're under the gun. We don't know if this is going to work out. We're definitely racked with a lot of tension and shit. And then by the end of it, like we're full on into the pandemic. By the end of it, we're hearing whispers of a vaccine.
Right.
And we're hearing all this and this kind of weird little light at the end of that tunnel that we experienced through the whole show. And it's also just kind of, and because it was so, we were so engaged with it and so much, and so like, I don't know, it just took us in such a real way. Like it kind of showed what we were capable of as far as like just a personality, just a like reaction crew and stuff like that, you know, that it could be done, you know, like in a way that was satisfying for us. Yeah,
totally. I mean, those type of shows always seem to come at like the right moment. I think Avatar is always the right moment for anyone. I think it impacts everyone differently, but also like sort of similarly where like it makes them feel heard and seen. And for you, I just thought it was so interesting that the pandemic sort of hit you at like not the perfect moment, but like at the such a weird serendipitous moment where the Game of Thrones ended, and then it's kind of like what next, and then the pandemic hits, and that is just like you said, sets you off for the new era for the channel and what you're kind of experiencing with it.
Who's to know what? Because I'll also credit a couple of people. Like, I mean, it was also like our patrons that hung with us, like in that weird kind of interim of trying to find our voice and trying to find like a new way to kind of make stuff and everything. Shout out to Jared, one of our patrons. I just remember he gave a lot. He like, we had like a certain like ceiling of money that you could give, and he just gave more just because he believed. And he was one of those things where I'm just like, well, shit. If he sees something, because I think that's something that all creatives kind of do, and what I'm sure every person that you have on this channel and stuff like that, like they got the vision, but you just kind of want to know, am I crazy? Do people actually want to watch this? It's what any musician, it's what any actor, it's what any entertainment personality, anything like that, has to think at least at some point, you know what I mean? Like, you know, where just like, do people want to watch this? And, you know, having a couple of those people that really stuck it out, kind of just like, well, shit, like I think so. I think we could keep going. Who's to know if the channel, like if we would have been able to regroup, if I might have just like focused on bartending or focused on some other stuff or whatever it is, it's hard to say where we would be. I just know that the pandemic and Avatar specifically, and the Draces too, because they were just so willing and ready to kind of jump in. Like they'll be my forever BFFs and my forever partners and stuff like that in that way, because they were just willing to go there. You know what I mean? And to jump in with me, you know, into a bunch of uncertain territory. And so, and so it was just, it was, you wonder what the hell, what would have happened in 2020? Like had that not happened. But I mean, it's one of the few silver linings, and just having the time also. Yeah. It kind of shows like how in America, like how little fucking time we actually have to kind of to regroup, you know what I mean? To kind of do that type of thing. And so, I mean, again, obviously a curse in a lot of ways, but also very much a blessing, you know?
Yeah. As if you can turn lemons into lemonade, as they say. So you guys started doing like a large rotation of shows from there. Avatar, Attack on Titan, Invincibles, like so on, just kind of like picking up things here and there.
Exactly.
And you mentioned the Draces a few times, and I kind of want to ask, what is your history with them? Like, how did you meet them? How did they get part of? Were they eager to jump on this and be kind of the other staples of the channel?
Yeah, I think. I mean, when I remember I met the Draces, I was just like, who are these? I was like, who are these couple of weirdos coming and sitting over in the one side and stuff? They were so kind of like vocal and engaged, way more than I was, at that one point in time. And then I think I think at a certain point, like I'd seen them coming in to a couple of the screenings in season 4, and then they just kind of eventually they took it upon themselves to like just get there early and just get seats up front and stuff. And then I was after that, it was just kind of like us just sort of cutting it up and talking about like, just ruminating on what we thought was going to happen. Cause that was still at the point like where the end game wasn't really known. And so we had a lot to talk about that. And that was kind of where we became fast friends. And because the Draces were very good friends with my partner, Amelia, and I started dating her, and then we started to kind of go on dates together. And then that was kind of where that was sort of like where that relationship kind of bloomed and stuff. Right. And then just got to know just the absolute, just fantastic maniacs that those two kids are, you know what I mean? And what dear like souls they are, and how much I love both of them and stuff like that. And everybody like kind of in our crew and stuff like that, and so but yeah, that was kind of where that was forged. And then that was just, and kind of what you see now as like this very raunchy, weird, like kind of strident kind of like takes on some of these shows like that is a little heightened, because I think that, like we said before, like the camera kind of changes and you're sort of on, and there's a little bit of a character there, and there's a sense of performance and stuff. But this is how we talk about stuff, and this is how we joke about stuff, and I think that's kind of the vibe of the channel now is kind of you're in AP English and you're joking with your buddies in the back of the class.
Right.
Type of a thing. It's either that, and it's mixed with at the end of a shift, you're done, you had a great long one, you made a bunch of money, you're a little boozed up, you had yourself a couple of shots like throughout the night, and the reeling kind of late night conversation that you have while you're closing up and stuff like that. Like that's kind of another vibe that we kind of have, and everything. Yeah. So always irreverent, that's for sure.
Yeah. So the show sustained you for the next couple of years, getting into 2022, and you were able to come back to the bar in 2022 with Obi-Wan. That was the first show back for you guys. And I guess what was that like getting back to the bar just in general?
It was great. I mean, like it was cool. Like I remember, it was definitely more akin to the Mando stuff, where I kind of knew what to expect by that point. You know what I mean? And and in some ways those bar reactions are a little easier to produce. Like it's not as, I don't know, it's just hard for me not to, when we start to make some kind of weird joke, it's hard for myself or my editors to not try to like augment that with some of our editing and stuff. Whereas like with a group reaction, it's a little more straightforward. You know what I mean? Like you can't have like as much commentary. There's not that much more to do. So I kind of loved like the straightforwardness of those things, like as far as just being, how is this group of people interacting with this material and stuff. And so it was an awesome like little kind of like way to come back. Again, the other thing is like we do about as well as the shows do.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan was solid, but not that great.
Yeah.
And so the crowds are solid and not that great. You know what I mean? Like, and so, and I think that outside of like a Song of Ice and Fire content, I think that we just have a special niche that there's always going to be some people that are kind of over there. But we did that. We did a couple of different, we did a Suicide Squad reaction too, that I thought was really fun, because that was when HBO was just putting everything out like same day to date, like as in the theater and stuff. And so that created a couple of opportunities for us as well.
Yeah.
And so it was cool, but it was fun. I mean, like every time that we kind of do that, especially going back with like Hot D, it was just like, it's definitely nostalgic and definitely like, it's like, oh yeah, I remember that. This is nice and cozy. I like this,
Well, House of the Dragon definitely had that Game of Thrones magic come roaring back. It was weird. It was almost like going back in time, just seeing the crowd and also just the views of people interested in the show again. Especially since I was so on the fence about where the fandom would be for it after people felt very burnt out. How the previous show ended, and then it somehow sparked that that interest again. And I guess what was that like getting back to the bar with House of the Dragon, sort of feeling put back to where it all started?
It was a relief for sure. I mean, it was one of those things where I think that I think that there is like a certain element of kind of like pizzazz and action and kind of things that I think that they feel like that they need to do, but at least like the good stuff was back too. Like we were doing garden walks and we were doing schemes and we were doing stuff that make people kind of go like this and they're like, oh my god, they're getting ready to go, like that type of stuff. Like that kind of stuff was it was a relief that the show was pretty damn solid and kind of and more of what we kind of want from that world and everything. And so it was a collective sigh of relief, just that we have just some good material from this thing. Because the other thing is, you got to remember is like, because we were like, where's this going to be? And you got to remember the reason that people are so fucking pissed off about that stuff is because they loved the show. Yeah. They loved it. They felt betrayed in a certain sense by some of the decisions and some of the ways that they decided to I guess like kind of, I don't know, I guess just how they sort of wrap things up. And so I think that, you know, if somebody is angry, if somebody's super angry, it's because they're super hurt, and they were super hurt because they love the show. And so I think that, again, like literally, I was like, Hot D just needs to show up getting the C+. And we'll be in good shape. You know what I mean? Like C+ in A Song of Ice and Fire with like a good stable of HBO writers is going to be heads and tails above most television. Right. You know what I mean? Writ large. You know what I mean? Like I think that Hot D has its problems. Obviously, I don't think that it's not without its problems at all. But you know, just the fact that it's kind of it's a bit more in that wheelhouse. I care about these characters. I'm invested in what's going on. I'm troubled by some decisions that they're making and everything. And so I think that it was like now I kind of see it. I kind of look at us as like a department store, and when Game of Thrones is on, it's like Christmas basically, right? Like it's like where we're getting our asses handed to us. Everybody's coming in. It's super busy. We're gonna work harder than we fucking than we've worked all year to get all of this stuff done, But we're reaping a lot of benefit from it and everything like that. And so I think that's sort of how I feel about it now, where there's like kind of more of just like even though it was very, very satisfying at some points, like when our Patreon, when we didn't have any of that content like coming out, like how I was making more on the Patreon than I did at the height of season 8. Right. Which was just satisfying. You know what I mean? Like, and also how there's some people who are just like, oh, you guys do those bar videos? Oh, cool. Rad. Or whatever it is. Like, I kind of love that. You know what I mean? Like that you can kind of, that we can sort of service both. I wish I could marry some of that engagement with some people, because there are just some people, they just want the bar reactions. That's the only thing that they want. And if we can't give it to them, then they ain't showing up. And that is totally fine. I love the fact that we've kind of had to kind of go back to basics, really build a stable of watchers and listeners and stuff like that from the ground up in a certain sense. We had to go back to school. We had to do the stuff that we didn't do before I slept my way to the top. You know what I mean? With those early Game of Thrones reactions and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, but really cool. I mean, like just fun and now it's a lovely cherry on top. I remember some people were checking in with us to see if we would do like Last of Us in the bar. And my first inclination, I think, was this is a quiet, contemplative, existentially wrought show. Yeah. I don't know if it's going to have the same effect, but then kind of looking at some of the numbers and stuff, who knows? We might try it in season 2. We might. Maybe. Yeah. We'll see. It's never not worth a shot. You know what I mean? Like, totally. So I don't know. It's kind of one of those things where, I don't know. It's like when you get super old and you're just like, listen, if I can't go out and do and have a great time and go to and do hard drugs, then I'm not doing anything at all. I'm staying home. You know what I mean? That's kind of what sort of the bar stuff is now. Like we want it to be, and mostly because we just want to give people what they want as well and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, like Hot D's coming out, I think 2024 is that what I think. Hopefully, something like that. We'll see. You know what I mean? Like we'll see what happens with the writer's strike. I think they were still shooting and stuff like while that stuff was going on. Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, like now I love the fact that we have like a teeming and robust way to to survive and to make, and to like kind of as like a legit business and stuff. But and the bar stuff is just kind of like a cherry on top. It's just like it's like a it's like a consolation at this point. It's just like it's like a consolation prize that we're just lucky to have and very grateful to have,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, having that balance of the two at this point in time is like
Totally.
yes, very, very good. Yeah, man, I want to start wrapping up here just with obviously some of the questions I'd love to ask people near the end of this, which is what for you has been the biggest obstacle managing the channel?
Biggest obstacle managing the channel, I would say just and I think it's just for myself and it's something that we're still working on, consistency and kind of really making sure that we're hitting like our goals and stuff. Not to say that, because the other thing is that we're not quite as big at this point that we can support myself. But we can, and it's very much worth it we've made it very much worth it for everybody, who works on the channel, like in a large capacity, like for the Draces and stuff like that. But it's still not to the point that that the Draces can quit their job, like, or whatever it is. So we're all like, still like kind of working people and stuff. And so I think that can kind of, there's definitely some creators where I can be a little bit jealous, and not in a bad way, just because I'm just so, because I'm just just kind of in love with how quickly they're able to like put out stuff. Like our friends, like, from Late to the Party, they're a great couple and stuff like that. They just crossed like 100,000 not too long ago, and they're just an awesome. Their name is Late to the Party, but they put their shit out faster than anyone I have ever seen. Like they're like it is absolutely mind blowing. And they're two of the sweetest folks and stuff. But like how. But that's because they're home. They just go home. They film in their one spot and everything like that. Whereas like there is a lot of triangulation of schedules and getting around that and everything like that to make it, and sometimes like it's like I'm I don't know, you don't want to seem too demanding, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, because it is
totally.
like, even though we've made it, we're taking care of everybody at this point, which I'm very happy and love that we're doing. But yeah, I think managing the schedules of working people to keep consistently putting out content, I think is kind of, has kind of been, if there was one thing that I could wave a magic wand and improve immediately, it would be that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then how do you feel you have personally grown with the channel?
Oh my God. Well, humility.
Yeah.
In a big bad way. It reconfirms things that I've found out about filmmaking from making my own, feature films and shorts and music videos and stuff like that you continually learn, unless you're an egomaniac. Whereas it takes a lot of people to make something special. It takes a lot of people to make something that's not special. Like the biggest piece of shit video that you have ever seen on YouTube, on the screen, like TV show, movie, whatever, took an immeasurable amount of time to make happen and stuff. And to find people that can deliver, to find people that are willing to give you their time and their creative energy and everything, and for them to be like, and for them to be friends, it's taught me a tremendous amount of humility as far as just like listening to like what the people that I'm working with are saying, listening to what the audience is trying to tell me. You know what I mean? They'll tell you how to make money. They'll tell you how to have a successful channel. They'll tell you what, like the things to do. You just have to kind of you just have to drop your pride. And I think that's probably something that I probably fought against and held on to, probably for a little bit too long, by the time, until the fucking pandemic was just like, yo, guess what? nothing is fucking certain. Nothing is fucking, like nothing is set in stone. Like the best idea that you could have, you can't do it because you're not able to. What are you going to do? And then just trying to be humble within the face of that free advice. You know what I mean? And that and to know that it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration between myself and the Draces, between the rest of the cast members. It's a collaboration between our editors. It's a collaboration between our audience. I mean, we're working together, you know what I mean, in a certain sense. And if you can see it for that, you know that you're important because you're kind of putting, and that you're the leader because you're kind of piloting the ship or whatever, but you're a fool if you're not listening to all of these other voices that clearly care about the product and the thing that you're trying to put together and stuff. And so humility would be the big thing, I think.
Awesome. Yeah. Great answer.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Our last question of the main part of this would be, beyond any financial or monetary value, what is the most rewarding aspect of the channel?
I get to yuck it up with my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I get to yuck it up with people that I care about. I remember when I was a kid, I was bullied pretty hard when I was younger. It's kind of some stuff that I've been kind of ruminating. I've been going to therapy in the last in the last year and stuff like that. It's been very good. Everybody should go do it. I highly recommend it. But I've been it's been interesting that as somebody who was bullied a lot and didn't have a ton of friends until going into high school, how hard that was for me and how much I valued it. And then you go and you think about it and you're just like, holy shit, I have figured out a way to make a living hanging out and celebrating my relationships with my friends and with the people that I care about. And that, and that can kind of be translated and give that same type of kinship to somebody watching.
Mm-hmm.
I've made a bunch of very personal, films and stuff like that, gotten them into film festivals and stuff like that. And I don't know if any, and I'm pretty sure that none of them has affected people. I'm pretty sure none of those things have affected them as much as some of my work on this channel. I remember one of my favorite ones that I ever had was, during, I think it was season 6 or 7 or something. It was a commenter hit us up and she was saying that, she had been going through treatment in chemotherapy and stuff like that. She was basically in the hospital a lot, and it was one of those things where she really wanted to, she would have loved and wanted to experience that kind of a communal thing watching our bar videos, and how it was able to get her through elements of her treatment and giving her that sense of community that was able to help her on her road to recovery.
Right.
And I don't, that somebody lays that at your feet and you have no idea. You're like, how do I even process this? I mean, I'm incredibly grateful that they get that out of that. Also, just with our going through the pandemic and with everybody with Avatar: The Last Airbender, people saying how we were our getting together and hanging out has become a kind of a safe space and a place of solace and a place of comfort for those people. That is, I can't imagine or it's hard to fathom even now still that I could mean that our thing could mean that to somebody, but I'm grateful that it does, and then I hope to kind of keep on doing it and stuff. And so to foster that type of a relationship with the audience is something that I think people are out there and they, it's a big, crazy world and stuff like that. And the things that we do can mean a lot to people and stuff. And I think that's the other element of it that also kind of opened my eyes to how special some of this work can be,
Yeah, absolutely. I very well said, man. I really appreciate all your insight on that. It's a very special connection we can build with people. I do have a final questionnaire for the show. Just 10 questions down the line for you.
Let's go.
For you to be as concise or as expand upon as you want.
Speed round. I'll try to do speed round deals. I'll attempt to not regale you for too long. Here we go. What do you got?
Question 1 is just, what is your favorite TV show?
Shit, favorite TV show? The Wire.
Or good.
The Wire. Excellent. I hope to one of these goddamn days I'm getting Scott Kane to watch that on the channel. It's happening. I don't give a shit if it gets 500 views a week and it loses us money. We're gonna do it eventually. But yeah, The Wire for sure.
What is your favorite film?
Favorite film? It's a tie. Hoity-toity filmmaker guy. Faces by John Cassavetes, 1968. Amazing deconstruction of relationships of people. It's like the most hyper realistic like acting that you've ever seen, but done in like 1965 in like the Mad Men era. Right. Amazing, like just so formative as far as like a can-do independent spirit type thing. One of my favorites. Other big budget one is Apocalypse Now. Like on the scale to which they made that film, but also how personal and how potent the thematic material was, and that they were able to pull it out of such difficult scenarios to film it. It's an absolute mind blowing. Like what it took to make that movie, and that movie turned out to be as good as it was under the conditions that it was made. So those are probably my two big ones.
Great.
Consolation prize, probably Raiders of the Lost Ark, just because that's my shit, you know.
Yeah. What stresses you out?
What stresses me out? I don't know. I mean, like, I think, I don't know. I think myself. Like, I think I think that I'm also, I kind of just got re-diagnosed with adult ADHD, and so I think that sometimes it's part of what makes me good at a lot of things, but it's also what makes me like not that great at some basic things and stuff. And so I think that sometimes I can get very down on myself. I've been trying to do that a little bit less, and to realize that people only do what they're capable of doing and stuff like that. You know, obviously things you can improve and things take time and they take work. So I think just kind of trying to, if I feel like I'm not doing something as full to the potential that I'm capable, I think that that's something that kind of irks me a little bit. That and drivers from Wisconsin in Chicago. Get the fuck out of my way, goddammit. Like I got places to be. Anyway.
What helps you relax?
Relax? I just love talking with people. I love talking with I love like whoever it is, just like the gift of gab, storytelling, you know, that type of thing is always kind of puts me at ease. I'm getting ready to go out and hang out and do like a Wing Wednesday thing with a couple of my buddies that we do every time. And I'm taking like a new friend with them and stuff. And I just love that. I love that. I love that with my partner, with the Draces, with my family, you know what I mean? With my brothers and my sister, with my brother and my sister. You know, I think that that's something that like storytellers and creators have a lot of, is that they really, like if somebody really speaks to you and you're really charmed by somebody, I think that it can be like, that's the biggest serotonin hit that you can ask for, you know what I mean? And so, that type of stuff, you know, is a big relaxing agent for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
What is a hobby or passion you have outside of TV and film?
DJing has been something very recently that I kind of got into. Another pandemic type of a like thing that I kind of started to focus on. I was doing stuff on my Twitch every Saturday, and that was just a lovely way to measure time. Like in that way, like this is a Saturday, next Saturday, next Saturday. And it's been cool to sort of have that kind of grow. Like I've gotten a residency like at a couple of clubs, like a couple times a month, like, you know, kind of from that, you know, and kind of grown as it. And it's just fun. I just love it. I DJ'd my buddy's wedding, last week and stuff. And so also so that was definitely a hobby that kind of came up, and now I'm figuring out ways, you know, it's one of those things where you're just like, God damn it, do I have to monetize literally everything that I like? It's like, you fucking weirdo. Like, but it's not, I would do that type of stuff. I would always do that type of stuff kind of regardless. It's just sort of like, it's just another opportunity to kind of keep doing it and for more people and stuff. And so, yeah, so DJing is probably like has been a big hobby that I've really gotten into lately.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What fictional character do you relate to or just care deeply about?
Ooh, fictional character that I relate to and care deeply about. I would probably say, I would try. I mean, I don't know. I do think that probably one of the biggest ones that I can think of is probably Zuko. It's like Zuko or it's Indiana Jones, and it's just mostly because they're both people that I want to emulate in the broadest sense of, like, with Zuko especially, just the ability to have self-reflection. It's human beings superpower. We can think about what we think about. We can think about why we do things. We can change our behavior. We can change we can change our lives. And I think that was so beautifully rendered with Zuko's journey. And then also just the kind of the adventurer with a heart type of a thing with Indiana Jones. It just made me want to be a filmmaker. It made me want to tell stories. It made me kind of believe in bigger things than, like, it excited my imagination in ways that were really hard to, that and probably the Wizard of Oz, but just the character itself, like, as far as just, kind of what, I don't know, just as far as like how its importance to me and stuff, and just kind of not, I don't know, like, be up for the adventure because it's, it's, and it might not always be the best thing, but regardless of of how it works out, it's going to come back to you with a lesson, and hopefully you can learn from it.
Yeah. Oh, well put. What is your guilty pleasure show or film?
Ooh, guilty pleasure show or film. Guilty pleasure show or film. You want to know what a guilty pleasure? I mean, even though I've been trying to say, like, not like guilty pleasure, whatever it is, I love fail videos. I fucking love fail videos. I will go, if I'm if I'm chilling or hungover or whatever it is, and I'm like I'm either feeling whatever or kind of down. I'm just like, let's watch a guy in a bear suit get racked in the nuts like a couple of times or whatever it is. Like, it's just so it's. But again, I'm a child of like America's Funniest Home Videos, so I think like that whole element, I think is I don't know. That's just, I mean, I suppose, I don't know. It's like one of those things like, am I the dude from Idiocracy? Like, ouch, my balls, like, or whatever it is. Like, and maybe I am, you know what I mean? But I think that's definitely one of them for sure. It's like, it's just give me some of those fucking dumbass TikToks. Give me some of those dumbass Insta reels and stuff. I'm down for all of it, Yeah. So like, that's kind of an element for sure.
I'll take that. What show or film gave you your favorite experience on the channel?
Ooh. One of my favorite ones ever is we did a reaction to the first Twilight movie, and watching my partner Amelia realize that the sparkly vampires thing was literal. Like that like when we were saying like, yeah, these vampires are sparkling or whatever, and she kind of got said a couple of times, and then watching her elation and her laugh, like really hard, like just completely lose her shit. It was like, wait, they're literally sparkling, and it's like, yes, literally. What the fuck did you think I meant? You know what I mean? Like, and whatever. And that moment is easily one of my top moments ever on the channel. And then like, I don't know, like, you got to go back to just like some of those electric ass fucking like Game of Thrones vids, and then probably the finale of Avatar. I think we're kind of like that's like a nice triage of like of things about the channel and stuff. That it also showing The Thing to my buddies on Manly Movie Monday, because like they're like, especially Scotty's a big scaredy cat and stuff like that, and so like that went really well. So a couple. I know that's multiple things, but that's okay. That's the big thing, for sure.
I'll take all of them. It's all right.
Hell yeah, man.
What show or film do you wish you could erase from your memory and react to for the first time?
Ooh, damn. Oh my God. I mean, Attack on Titan was special. Attack on Titan is special. It's still coming out. I mean, like, I think that one was that was another one where we just bought in super hard. And that's one of my favorite things that we've ever covered. I would love that. I mean, maybe just to kind of, there's some big ones like, we are eventually, because now we're doing this whole thing with our buddy Angel, who watched all of Hot D, but never saw Game of Thrones and was never spoiled. Yeah. And like, it would be one of those things where and I think once we're done with that, because he's also never seen Breaking Bad, I would love to re-experience that again, because that's a show that's up there for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe Breaking Bad would be one of them for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been watching some reactions to it recently, and yeah, it's fun to read.
It's so good. I remember being like watching it on like a little piece of shit like tablet or something like that in like 2011 or 12 or whatever it was, and it was just like and just flipping out like when when he says run, or whatever. It's like you're losing your mind. You know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely one of them for sure.
For sure. And final question here: what advice would you give to your past self if you can go back in time when you first started the channel?
What advice? I would probably say, work on becoming organized a little bit sooner, because that always helps and never hurts. I would probably say, always say yes. Always say yes for the most part, unless it's something like really stupid, like, I don't know, like sticking your hand in a fire or like voting Republican or something like that. Like sorry, not no, I'm joking. No, but but you know what I'm saying? Like, where don't, like, there, all of the things that kind of, that we eventually got to were things that I was kind of resisting a little bit. Mm-hmm. And everything, and you look at all of the good things that happened to us was because all of these people said yes, because they said sure, because they were open to it, because they were able and ready and willing to sacrifice time, creative energy, their own perspective to make something happen. Saying, like, because the thing is, you can say yes and it'll fail, right. But if it fails, that's not that big of a deal. It's like the first time it's like back when I was in college and I was boxing and stuff, like the first time I got punched like full on in the face, I was so afraid. And then it happened, and then I didn't die immediately and, and crumple into a ball or whatever it was. And then I was like, oh, okay. So, all right, well, that's what that is. Like, and that's just, we've tried a bunch of things that kind of had some legs, some that didn't. We tried to, and we've left some things by the wayside, and we've picked up some other things, but it was all a learning experience, and it was all because we said yes. Mm-hmm. And so I think that if you have an inkling, if anybody out there is like looking to create something or doing whatever, just go for it, and just don't say no, like, because you're definitely not going to fucking make anything happen if you say no. You know what I mean? Right. Like, and so I don't know. That's kind of that's what I would say. I would hope that I would learn earlier. I'd say would be that.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
That's very well put, man. I appreciate all the insight you've given us today, because it's invaluable.
Thank you,
I'm looking forward to more from you, more from the bar and beyond.
Yeah, man, we got some more coming out, man. Absolutely. And again, shout out to Eric and the Reactorverse and stuff. I went through and watched a bunch of the shows and stuff like that. And it is you are doing, this is like, regardless of whatever, I think that this is going to become like a very successful like endeavor and stuff like that, and it already is. But this is like you're going to land yourself in like the Library of Congress, dog. Like this is because this is becoming like an invaluable resource for people for this thing, and just like a great document about this subgenre. And so you guys are doing the Lord's work over there, man.
Thank you. I apprite that, man.
Absolutely.
It means a lot. Yeah. Where can we find you online, on YouTube, social media, anywhere?
Online, social media, YouTube, search Sean TankTop. Like on YouTube, Sean TankTop. On Instagram, Watchers in the Bar on Instagram. Those are the best places to hit us up on our Patreon for a bunch of exclusive stuff. www.patreon.com/Sean TankTop. That's where you search that thing on like pretty much any of our of our various like kind of what do you like avenues of social media and stuff like that. That's where you'll find us and stuff. And it's like, but obviously the big one is YouTube. Hit us up over there. Hit that like, that subscribe, all that good stuff, because that shit always helps. It never fucking hurts. I'm going into my read. I'm sorry, this isn't my video. Take it back from me, Eric, before I start doing my spiel there.
That's okay. I'll take it from there.
Goddamn right. Absolutely. Thank you, man.
If you're watching this on YouTube, please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you find this on the newsletter for Passionfruit, please share that and subscribe as well. We appreciate all the views and help there. And we'll catch you on the next episode.
Later.